Happy December 18th, FlossTube. Today we're talking about books. Jacob's given us a lovely, lovely portrait to enjoy, as well as a video up on his YouTube channel about some of his favorite books, and we'll talk about mine in a few minutes. Floss of the day for day 18 is the most beautiful purple called Royalty Free. This purple is the dark match to Birthstone. So those two flosses look amazing together. And the stitching for today, we're going to be filling in some work around here. I'm quite certain most of you will figure out where we're headed once we get today's stitches in. So I'll show you my stitching in a little bit. There we go. Day 18 stitching is finished. And we've put a pair of glasses on our lion. What do you think? You guys know what they are? Pretty sure you know what they're going to be. But there you go. Stitching is done. And it was just right there today. No other hidden stitches. Unless I missed a couple, but I don't think I did. Happy day 18, FlossTube. So, the stitching's coming along, isn't it? And we're starting to fill in those mysterious gaps, and it's all starting to come together. So I just wanted to address some comments and questions that I've had regarding the charting of this stitch along. I know that, you know, in the past few days, over the last week, I myself have had a couple of times where I've missed a few stitches and filled them in later. So some of you have had suggestions of, you know, highlighting the new stitches in a different color or darkening them up. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. First of all, I always appreciate comments and suggestions, always. You know, sometimes these things are, you know, they are the reason why we make changes, right? Last year, you might remember, we gave out the daily stitch along we're on 5x7 cards, and many people struggled with reading the numbers for where the counting was and what, like, the numbers on the grid lines. And so, you know, Jacob and I took a lot of time this year discussing how to improve upon that. And Jacob really spent a lot of time in designing the layout of the stitching this year so that it could all fit on one 8x11 card. So adding color to a printout like this that we do is a fair bit more expensive. Printing out the 8x11 instead of the 5x7 was already, and I'll tell you this because, you know, you guys don't often know the sort of back end of things that we do at Evertote. Jacob provides us with all of the PDFs, and we print them here locally in London, Ontario. And we have a wonderful printer who works with us a lot on Jacob's charts. And so the cost of doing the 8x11 versus the 5x7 was about 4 times more. 4 times more than the cost of the 5x7 that we did last year. And we had not factored in that price increase when we priced the box back in February. And these things happen, right? So we're ready for sort of ebb and flow. And Jacob, you know, being Jacob, he sort of helped me to absorb that cost. And so to add color on top of that, it's going to be more expensive, right? We printed out thousands upon thousands of cards, and when you add color to it, you're adding cost, which of course gets factored into the cost of the box, which is fine. You know, we're talking about 25 cards, right? So the cost of color added to 25 cards isn't insurmountable. However, what you may not realize is that Evertote, we order in anticipation of sales. Because we start this process, I mean, we're starting this process now for next year. So we anticipate, okay, how many people wanted this last year? How many people emailed us throughout the end of November and December because they missed out and they were disappointed and they wanted to purchase it? And last year when we ran out, and you know, we ran out a lot earlier last year and we had to tell people, sorry, we don't have anything. So we tried to anticipate far in advance, far in excess of what we might need, knowing in advance that Evertote may have to absorb those costs at the end with whatever we couldn't sell. So I ordered a lot of extra floss, but the floss is something that I can then pop into the shop, you know, after the first 5 days have been revealed. I can put the floss in the shop, and that's a it's not like trying to sell food. It doesn't expire. I can still sell that floss. The needle minders, I have extra needle minders. Well, they don't have a date on them, so I can use them for giveaways. I can put them together with something else in the future. Those are not considered a waste, right? The ornaments, because they are dated, they have the date on them. I do have some extra ornaments that I'm not quite sure what we're gonna do with those, but you know, not a lot. I didn't order, I tried to be as careful as I could with those. But the paper cards, the paper charts, because we wanted to make sure that anyone who wanted to participate, who found out about it, even if they found out about it halfway through December and last minute they wanted to participate, we could mail them a copy of the PDFs as quickly as possible. We wanted to have enough to do that. But those cards, as soon as the stitch along is over, they are not worth anything, right? Because of course the entire pattern is revealed and the PDF will be available through Jacob's site, which of course, you know, it's no longer a mystery. Why would you pay to have all of those cards with a mystery laid out when the chart is available as a single format? So Evertote absorbs the cost on the waste of those extra charts that get ordered that don't sell. So as you can see, it's a lot of guesswork, and we hope to do our best job at guessing somewhat accurately, but also try to avoid, you know, having a major expenditure come out of this at the end of the year where I have to recycle all of those leftover cards because they're valueless. Even though they're beautiful, they are valueless because they are for this year's holiday countdown. And adding color to that cost means more cost that I, of course, have to absorb at the end. So hopefully that I'm sure it makes sense to you. But, you know, I think this is a valuable conversation because when we have these kinds of discussions, it makes me start thinking about, okay, well, how can we make it a little bit easier to see? And when I look at the chart, when I look at the chart, I actually, like, full disclosure here, I don't look at the symbols at all. I'm looking for stitching in an area that didn't exist yesterday. So because of I don't have great vision either, and those symbols are quite small. I'm not looking for a symbol. I'm looking for stitching that didn't exist yesterday. And I will take yesterday's card. I've gotten a little bit more careful about this over the last couple of days because I did miss some stitching earlier in the week, and I'm the one leading the stitch along. But I will take yesterday's card and today's card, put them side by side, and look for the differences between the two. And that's how I've been handling, not really concerning myself too much with the symbol. So what I'm wondering is, and I'm kind of thinking out loud here, and I know Jacob's been watching these, and Jacob and I talk to each other every day anyway. So he's probably, of course, he's Jacob, he's gonna have some ideas of his own. But you can see on the chart that some of the symbols appear to be darker because there's more to the symbol than some of the other symbols which are lighter. For example, the motifs, the sort of snowflake diamond motifs in these triangles here, in the triangles, they are, you know, one is slightly lighter and the other one is slightly darker. So I'm wondering if maybe next year, I loved the size of the card. The 8x11 I think was a great move for this year. And I loved having the sort of layering of the pattern every day upon the previous day's stitching. But I'm wondering if instead of focusing on a symbol for next year, we focus on sort of grayscale versus black. Now, jump in with any potential problems that might have, because obviously, you know, this is just me sort of thinking out loud. But what if we went to all of the news stitching of the day was just a black square, and the entire square for what needed to be stitched for that day was just completely solid. And then the next day it would be grayed out, and the new stitching for the next day would be the darkest black square. So what do you think? Let me know what you think. Thank you. Thank you to everyone who left me a comment about the symbols, because it is valuable feedback, I think, as to how we can strive to improve this and make it as good and positive experience for everyone involved, because there are a lot of you, and this has been a ton of fun, and honestly can't wait to do it again. And we're not even done this year's yet. So let's get on. Actually, because of the way I edit these videos, you don't know when I do my stitching. I am saving this stitching for later tonight when when the football game is on. It is still Sunday for me. And why don't I go ahead and show you the finishes that I've got for today? Because today, for the 12 days of finishes, you are getting a 2-for-1, because these two pieces hang in the exact same spot in my home. So I figured I might as well show you both of them, because they're both fabulous finishes. So I'm going to start with the non-holiday one that lives in this place in my home. It's in the kitchen, and I should have cleaned the glass on this first, but I didn't, so forgive me. This is, oh, I love this piece. This is a shepherd's bush. It's a series of flowers that are pulled threads, and it's the amaranth one. I think there are 3 or 4. So shepherd's bush. This was a class that I took many years ago from my local needlework shop, and I did it with my sister-in-law, and it was really fun, and she finished hers too, and she has hers framed on the wall. And so yeah, it's delicate. It's just enough specialty stitch that I didn't, you know, drive myself bananas with I actually finished it. And I learned how to do all of those things. Could I do them again? Well, thankfully, there's YouTube to help us sort things out for things that we learned and can no longer remember how to do. So yeah, shepherd's bush. That's such a beautiful piece. Now the next one is just a fun Christmas piece, a holiday piece. It's not specifically Christmas. It says Season's Greetings. I know I've shown this before, and every time I show it, I cannot remember the designer's name. I'm pretty sure it's Sue Hillis. So please correct me. I know this happens to me every time I show it, because so many of you out there are so great with remembering names of designs. So, and I appreciate that. So if I'm incorrect in any way, please jump in the comments and correct me. Sue Hillis Designs, Season's Greetings. No glass on this one, so no glare. Check it out. Isn't it fun? I loved stitching this one. It was so fun. And there are the little charms on there. Scissor and thread bobbin. And I wrapped a little bit of the dark green floss around the bobbin. Actually, I think I might have, yeah. So I picked that dark green that was in the mitten, the bobbin, the scissor. Hopefully that's focused. I think it is. Isn't that beautiful? It's just such a fun holiday piece. I mean, you know, red and green, can't go wrong, right? And you know, it's a big count. I think it's yeah, it's 28 count, 2 strands over 2, and looks like yeah, DMC. I would have used the called for DMC colors, and you can tell any of the sort of variegation in colors in some of these things, and the mitten have been done with 3 different colors of floss. So yeah, this was a fun one. Trying to choose the screen capture for every day of these videos is always an adventure, because you know, if I try to put my face in it, my mouth is always open. So let's put this in front of my face, and then maybe that will be, I'll hold it up nice and close, and that will be the screen capture for the day. Then I don't have to spend 10 minutes trying to find a still of me without my mouth open, honestly. Okay, so I have been working on my Hibernation Day by Beth Twist of Heartstrings Samplery. I am so in love with it. I finished, like, I'm in a groove with it. I finished the next border up, which I showed at the beginning of yesterday's video, and I am fully and completely committed to the lettering that's above that. So I only have about a page and a half left on that entire chart, and now I've kind of got a fire lit under my stitching hand to get this finished by the end of the year. So what that means is, I know I had sort of planned a stitching Christmas gift for my niece, but let's face it, it's very Valentine's-y, so she doesn't know about it anyways. So who wouldn't love a surprise Valentine's Day gift from their aunt, right? And it's very, let's face it, it's very Valentine-y, which is nothing wrong with that. But what that would mean is that I could finish the Hibernation Day. Totally selfish, aren't I? Totally selfish. Don't worry, I'll get her a good gift. She'll still get a good gift from me. Yeah. Okay, so books. Let's talk about books. Ever since I was little, I have been a voracious reader. I used to read to the detriment of everything else. Whenever, you know, and I was quite naughty when I was young. I would keep a book in the top desk drawer of my desk at home where I did homework. And I know my mom and dad are watching these floss tubes, and I know my mom always knew full well what I was up to, so this is not going to be a surprise at all. I'm tattling on myself, but I'm not telling her anything she didn't already know. I would keep a book in my top desk drawer, and instead of doing my homework, I would stick my nose in a book, and, you know, yeah, just losing yourself in the world of a novel has always been a joy. And then as life gets busier and you become an adult with a family and other things become, you know, bring you joy, stitching and crafting, stitching and knitting really took over all of my free time for reading, available for reading. My brother is still, he's an incredible reader. He's read everything. I want to get him books for Christmas, but I would never even attempt to, because I think he's read everything. He has the type of job where he can listen to audiobooks all day. And that's kind of where I'm going with this. The advent of audiobook has been a game changer for me. And so I don't really want to talk about, though I am going to mention one series in particular. I would be very, very hard pressed to tell you about a favorite book, because I devour books like candy, and I don't necessarily always remember what I've read. I know I enjoyed it, but for me, it's the pleasure of the act of reading or somebody telling me a story. And so many years ago, my husband and I purchased for each other a subscription to Audible. And I know this is going to sound like an ad for Audible. Trust me, I'm not getting a penny from Audible. But we purchased, and this was a long time ago, back when, you know, they were still fairly new. It was still a new thing. Audiobooks were still a new thing. Audible was new. But we both loved the idea of being able to fit in a bit more reading into our day. And I absolutely 100% consider audiobooks reading. It's just someone else is reading the story to you. And isn't that's kind of a wonderful thing? So we purchased the subscription plan where you get 12 credits a year, which, trust me, when you're two people, you know, using credits, we sometimes have years where we'll blow through all 12 in the first half of the year. And then other years, you can tell the years that we're really busy, like the year we took over Hearthside Craftworks. By the end of our anniversary is in October, and we got married on Thanksgiving weekend back in 1996. And so you can always tell the years that we're super busy because we still have quite a lot of credits left over in October by the time it rolls over. Now, it used to be, because I don't know that they offer that particular subscription plan anymore. We seem to have been grandfathered in. But they used to roll over your extra credits, right? So we would start the next October with 5 credits still left over from the year before, and they'd add 12 new ones in. Well, now they don't do that anymore. If you don't use up your 12 credits within a year, they expire, and then, you know, that's such a waste, right? So now we try to keep an eye on it and whatnot. But yeah, the year that we took over Hearthside Craftworks, we still had, I think we had 10 credits left by the time we got to October. So it's been nice this year to see how we are ticking through the credits, enjoying the things, but also Audible has really ramped up their offerings. They now offer a lot of extra material for your subscription. So there are free books that are offered that are considered part of the Audible library. There are podcasts. There are, you know, series, motivational series. I know Mel Robbins is on there. And yeah, lots of things to listen to. But of course, that is the paid subscription service. I know full well there are so many programs that are through local libraries like Overdrive. You know, I know there are others. Help me out, because I'm not entirely familiar with them. We don't use them because I also, as well as our Audible subscription, I tend to listen to podcasts in general, you know, found on iTunes, things like that. And those are, of course, in addition to what we're listening to on Audible. So this is, I guess, a love letter to the audiobook, to the written word being read to you while you can do other things, because it is living the dream for a crafter and a book lover, where you can have somebody read you a story while you're stitching at the same time. And I know so many of you, of course, I'm preaching to the choir here, but really, for me, I'd be hard pressed to tell you about a few favorite books. So for me, it's more of a love letter to audiobooks. Also, the narrator can make or break whatever you're listening to. There's one in particular on Audible. His name is Scott Brick, and I could listen to him read anything. I don't care what it is. If he's reading it, I want to listen to it. He is just that good. He's amazing. His voice is mesmerizing, and whatever he's reading is just, well, I mean, let's face it, he's going to read some junk every once in a while, but his voice is really that good. Okay, so I was going to tell you about a series. Now, this is the thing about telling people your taste in books, right? I have a very eclectic taste in books, which, if you've known me for long enough, you know my personality is a little bit like that. I'm all over the place. I like stitching various and sundry things, whatever catches my fancy at the moment. I'm not really, I don't really have laser focus any of the time, but when it comes to what I read, I will pretty much read anything. I have a particular when I'm working, like when I'm working at work and I have time to listen to something, I have a tendency to skew towards post-apocalyptic, dystopian, fantasy, science fiction-y kind of things, okay? So the series that I'm going to tell you about, and I found a great description of this. So before I tell you the series, I'm going to describe to you what it is. So this reviewer, she called the series Post-apocalyptic, dystopian, young adult crossover, military, sci-fi with history and general awesome geniusness. So that's what you're getting into if you want to try out this trio of books that I'm going to tell you about. Okay, so this series of books is by Pierce Brown, and it's called the Red Rising series. And I'm into book 2, and I'm saving it. Just like I'm saving Song of the Nightingale. It's time to listen to it, right? It's one of those things, you know, when it's done, it's done. That's the other series, The Wheel of Time. That one has like a million gajillion books, and I will not watch the television series until I've listened to the books. Robert Jordan, Wheel of Time. And I think I'm on book 6 or 7 of that series. Phenomenal. I mean, there are times where it's like you can zone out because it's a little slow moving, but the writing and the storytelling is really, really good. So Pierce Brown, Red Rising, and this was a series that was recommended to me by my brother. His name is Steven, and he is 8 years younger than me. He's my baby brother, and you've never met a man who read as much as my brother does, and he recommended that series to me, and I loved the first book so much. I immediately went and purchased the second 2 books, and then they have been hunkered up waiting in my Audible library because I've been saving them for good, just like Paula says, the good china. So it's time to read those. Yeah, it's time to read those. So that's it for me about books. I'm excited to see Jacob's video today, tomorrow about books. I always find anything Jacob could read the phone book, and I'd listen to him read it too. Whew, okay, that's it for me. It is, as I've said, I'm a day behind you guys when I record these videos, so it is still Sunday late afternoon for me. What time is it? It's 4:30. So it'll be time to start thinking about dinner soon, and yeah, the football's on this evening, so I'm not sure we're gonna watch a Christmas movie tonight. But I just wanted to give you a little heads up that 2 things. First of all, and most important, I have a very special picture, 2 pictures to share with you tomorrow. Mrs. Claus is a cross stitcher, if you didn't know. If you didn't know that, Mrs. Claus is a cross stitcher, and because of the work that I do with Evertote, I get to meet some really special people all over the world, and I've known that Mrs. Claus was a cross stitcher for a few years now, and she said that it was okay that I could share the picture of her and Santa. So I'm going to share that with you tomorrow as a special day 19 treat as we close down the days towards the end of our holiday box, and as we get closer to Christmas on December the 25th. Very exciting times. The design is coming together. The other thing I wanted to mention is, because this video is coming out on Monday morning, there is going to be a video up on our Evertote channel that's going to tell you all the details about our Valentine box. We're going to have a Valentine box available tomorrow afternoon, and all of the details about that. And it is going to be a stitch along, and there are some things to tell you about that. Tomorrow is actually quite a big shop update for us at Evertote. We're actually releasing 2 pretty major things tomorrow afternoon, because I've kind of been sitting on something from Jeanette Douglas for a little while as well. And it's something, I know I'm telling you all about this now, and I'm going to tell you all about it again tomorrow, but it is a spool design based off of her Margaret Meadows chart. And I have the spools, I have the chart, we've got the floss, and it's also going to be when we launch our Evertote floss folio for the very first time into the website. So it's a massive shop update tomorrow for us at Evertote. So it's going to be a really busy day. So I suspect that the video that I record tomorrow for the countdown that appears on this channel is probably going to be pretty short. If I can manage to open the envelope, show you the floss, show you the stitching, then we're going to be firing on all cylinders. Tomorrow's a very busy work day for me. But I thought, because I knew it was going to be a super short video, I thought I would lure you in with the promise of showing you Mrs. Claus, the cross stitcher, and Santa. So on that note, I'm going to go and do my stitching, but I will have already insert that video by the time you see this, and get on with my evening. So have a great evening, everybody. Have a great day. Take care, and I'll see you both later today and tomorrow. Happy stitching.